Good morning, everyone. I am a daughter, a granddaughter, a mother, a wife, business owner, entrepreneur, politician, visionary, Indigenous, and a woman. But you take all that away from me, and what you have standing in front of you is a 200-pound, 34-year-old. Talking about perseverance and resilience, that's stuff of extraordinary people. And I'm just ordinary. I grew up here in Yellowknife. I grew up on the Con property with my mom, my dad, my sister, and all the many pets that we had that came through our doors. Now, back in the 80s, we were the only Indigenous family, or one of the only Indigenous families that lived on the Con property. But being a child, you don't notice that. You don't recognize the color of your skin. But there I was, the native girl. We went over to Sissons, my sister and I, and again, very low population of Indigenous people. Most of them went to Mildred Hall, or they went to Willaday. But there I was, the native girl. I remember in 1990, my dad brought us over to the East Coast, because that's where he's from, and we went and visited our family. And my grandfather, who only saw us maybe twice in his lifetime, spoiled us rotten. Every time he came back from the general store, it was a bucket of ice cream. It was a big bag of candy, chips. Cousins hated us because he spent all this attention on us. But when we came back in the fall of 1990, back for school, my sister and I came back fat. I remember my mom telling me this because she always made the point to say, you left skinny, but you came back fat. And it never went away. So there I was, the fat native girl. At the end of grade 2, my mom and my teacher had decided that I was illiterate. I couldn't read. And it wasn't that I couldn't read, it was that I didn't like it. I hadn't found a book out there yet that spoke to me, that made me want to read from point A to point B. So I was told I was illiterate, and I had to repeat grade 2. So the few friends that I had gained in those few years of school, they went ahead, and I stayed behind. Now I lost all those friends, because then I was thought of as the stupid, fat native girl. Nobody wants to hang out or speak with the stupid, fat native girl. And the kids that I went to school with at that moment, my new peers, also didn't want to talk to me because I was the stupid, fat native girl. I wish I could say it got better from there, but middle school happened. And you know how that goes. Girls got catty, girls got mean. I remember running for Caribou Carnival Princess. If any of you remember Caribou Carnival, I ran for Caribou Carnival Princess, and my aunts helped me sell tickets. And I was out at the co-op selling tickets, and all these adults were coming and giving me support. But when I would get back to that school through those doors, it wasn't support that I got. I got, you're not going to win because you're not pretty enough. You're ugly. I won that year. I was the princess, but what I took away from that was I was also ugly. I was the ugly, stupid, fat native girl. There was a moment in middle school that was defining for me. I used to write my mom letters because at some point I could no longer speak to her about the hurtful things that they would say to me, the things they would do to me. I used to have kids follow me home and whip snowballs at me. They used to call me names. They would refuse to allow me to play games. This almost sounds like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But I remember going on the bus and they used to scrape the frost off the windows and make them into tiny little pellet ice balls, and they'd whip it at my sister and myself. Wintertime wasn't that cold for us, and my sister and I used to walk around with our jackets unzipped. And they would say, "What, are you too fat to zip it up?" So I'd write my mom these letters letting her know what had happened, to have somebody validate for me my feelings, because I had no one else to speak to. And this one particular day, my mom wasn't home, so I asked my dad, "When's Mom coming home?" He said, "In a few hours." I said, "Okay, I'm gonna leave this letter here for her." And I went for a walk. I went up onto the hill where we live, and it's a dead-end road. But from where we lived, it was just land and sky, and the hum of Con Mine. This was long before any of the trailers came out there. There was nothingness. There was quiet. And I didn't have to stand there and listen to anybody call me names or say horrible things to me. And all of a sudden, I could hear my dad yelling my name, "Stacie!" And I wondered what was going on. So I looked down the hill, and I could hear the slam of our door. And I could see him running from the house to the shed where he had his guns and he had his knives for hunting. He thought that letter was my goodbye letter. I ran down that hill, and I remember the look in his eyes, and I remember him yelling at me, "Don't ever do that again." And I made a promise to him right then and there that no one was ever going to dictate how I was going to live my life. No one was ever going to have that power over me to end it, because it's mine. It was around this time that my parents felt that I needed people because I had no one. This is about the time they put me into martial arts, because as my mom called it, I needed a tribe. And it was here that I thrived. I was able to take all of this hate and this anger, and I could put it to good use. I was the only girl, so these boys didn't mind if I kicked the bejesus out of them. They loved it. And that's how I got better at it. In 2002, I trained for an entire year, and I got to go to NAG Games. I won the heavyweight championship. And I came back my senior year walking tall. I came back having slimmed out just a little bit, dressing a little bit more feminine, putting on a little bit of makeup. And people started being nice to me. But these were also the same people that had been horrible to me. So I knew only to take their words with a grain of salt, because I knew it wouldn't have been too long for them to flip that switch on me. I didn't let them get close. I graduated in 2003 with scholarships and honors to prove to them that I wasn't dumb. I went off to college right after and got to experience a whole new world of firsts. My first kiss, my first date, my first everything. My first heartache. And I soon realized that these individuals that I was having relationships with only wanted me for one thing. So I walked away. It was a few years later that I met my husband here in Yellowknife, of all places. He was the DJ, karaoke DJ over at the Legion. And you know when you've met someone and you've known them before you even met them. I knew who he was from a distance. It was almost like he had told me in my mind just by looking at him. And I knew who he was. That entire night, he did not leave my side. We chatted about everything. However, at that point in time, he was engaged, so I had to walk away again. A year later, he was no longer engaged. I was no longer with anybody either. And from then on, it was me and him. And our life just seemed to happen so quickly. We were together, we moved to Inuvik a month after. A year after, I was pregnant. We moved back within 6 months, and I had my first child. We had our son. And I opened up a day home because I wanted to raise my own child. And being a business owner was something that I wanted to do, but I soon found out that raising children was not the way I wanted to do it. It killed me a little bit inside to stay at home. Once we had our second child, we closed down the day home. We had so many incidences that happened within that year. Having moved 3 times, I could no longer keep a day home open. So I ended up getting a job at Flowers North. Within 6 months of being there, my girlfriend, who was the manager, asked me if I wanted to take over her position, and I said, sure, why not? 6 months after that, the owner looked at me and he said, I don't want to have a flower shop anymore. Do you want to run it? I said, sure, why not? So people started to get to know who I was. I was the florist. I'm Stacie, I'm that girl over there. And the persona of being the ugly, stupid, fat native girl slowly disappeared. I had opportunities that kept coming at me like a trail led with, lack of a better word, flowers. And I'd slowly pick them up, following them to see where they led me. Becoming a politician was never in my grand design. I sat back for years, watching that opportunity on the ground and thinking someone else is going to pick this up, someone else of my culture, someone else of my heritage. They're going to pick this up. But no one ever did. So I decided, well, I might as well grab this opportunity and see what happens. And you guys all know what happened. And it's been from there that I've had numerous opportunities still lay at my feet, and I'm following them because I believe that whatever is out there, the Creator, He's got a plan. And I'm following it. But I've taken all those experiences that I've had, and I carry them with me to remember my starting. And I take that monumental experience when I was a kid, because there's been many moments where I've wanted to crawl into a hole and die. But I remember that look on my dad's face. I remember the fear, the terror, the love. And I remember my declaration to him that no one was ever going to have the power over me. So I stand in front of you, that ugly, stupid, fat girl, native girl. But I also stand in front of you as a daughter, as a granddaughter, as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, a politician, a visionary, Indigenous. But most importantly, I am woman. Thank you.